You remember how, as a child, you drew so much more freely. Maybe worse, less professional than now, but with soul, with joy, with a real love for the process. Do you feel like you're always waiting for inspiration, but it never really comes? You pick up a pencil, a brush, try to draw, and nothing good comes out. So you pull it away, telling yourself, I'll try again tomorrow. I've been there. I suffered so much, like I was lost my mind. I didn't understand what was happening to me. Had I really lost the only thing that once gave me joy? If you recognize yourself in this, sit with me and listen. On anatomy, composition, etc. I had this huge library of knowledge about all of it, but I couldn't understand why I couldn't use it in my drawings. It was as if I knew it all, yet I couldn't express it on paper. Because I couldn't relax, because I couldn't trust myself. I couldn't trust that my visual library was already rich enough to guide me. I didn't want to listen to it. When I draw, I realized it's so important to switch off the thinking mind. Rational thought has no place in the creative process, not at all. I understand now why I was stuck for so long. For years, I relied entirely on my rational mind while creating. I'd sit down to draw with thoughts like, what should I draw to get noticed? Or, how do I make this so that people will like it and comment? And with those thoughts, I drew. The results were okay, maybe. Some pieces carried effort, some carried pain, some were polished, painstakingly extracted from me. But for the viewer, none of that mattered. The audience didn't notice. And honestly, I didn't have many viewers. I felt like a blank kitten walking through the process. I had no clear idea, no bold gesture to start from. I would sketch something awkward, hoping the piece would somehow come together as I went. I clung to details, unable to let myself simply see what I wanted to see, to let the imagined light fall on the shape, and then outline it. I painted stroke by stroke, hoping it would someday work. Of course, this took ages. Sometimes I would give up and redo entire section because I couldn't draw what I saw. My mind seemed to block my vision. My movements were chaotic, disjointed, as if a strict overseer sat over me, controlling every step. I couldn't relax. And not long ago, after a walk, I picked up an oil painting I had started months ago. I hadn't finished it. It had been sitting unfinished for 3 months. I feared approaching it again, and that day, I turned it from vertical to horizontal and began covering whole areas with opaque paint using a broad brush. Then I just sat and looked. I didn't think, I simply observed for about 5 minutes or so. Then I started covering large sections with paint. A part of me was terrified. I had spent so much time and energy on those details. Yet another part of me did it playfully, laughing as I went. I don't know what it was. The archetype of the fool within me? My inner child finally allowed to play? But I chose to trust it. Whenever thoughts, any thoughts at all, crept into my mind, the painting veered, of course. Thoughts about money, harm, relationships, thoughts born from fear, undermined the playful flow. And then again, the playful part would take over. It would cover It would paint, it would create from love, from curiosity, simply trusting my hand and my eyes. I noticed I no longer paid attention to the colors on the palette, yet somehow everything still looked right, logical, convincing. It was a completely different kind of thinking. I realized this approach could apply beyond painting. It was a shift in my mind, reflected in the work and in life itself. Fear began to fade. I stopped thinking about the end result. I stopped thinking about likes or shares. I didn't even know if I would finish the painting. For the part of me that truly drew it, concept like finished or goal didn't exist. Time didn't exist. Before I knew, 3 hours had passed. I felt like I'd stepped out of reality. It was freeing, almost overwhelming. When I finally stood up, my whole body ached. I had been sitting for so long, absorbed in the act of creation, but I felt liberated, as if a huge weight had finally been lifted from my soul.